What's up, Amunites and citizens of Qi Dao? We are back with a special AMA episode of the Inside Crypto podcast. This episode was recorded on September 3rd, 2021 by Nacho from the Qi Dao staff, our VP of Tokens, James Wang, and the Head of Marketing, Ronald Angsiy, talk about our upcoming new Polygon index token. They answer the following questions. What is an index? What are the rules for the Polygon token? How does being a part of an index help the community? How do we compare versus other opportunities? How did James get into the crypto space? There are a bunch of other questions. I don't want to write them all down, but all of these are well worth the listen to if you are passionate about Polygon or even just crypto. Thanks again for listening, and a special shout out to the Qi Dao crew and Nacho for doing the recording for this episode. Thank you so much, and tune in for our regular podcast, which should happen sometime this week.
Today is another special one. We have Amun and 21 shares here to help answer some questions. We've been chatting with them for a while now, and they've got some really cool things coming out that I think our community would really enjoy. So we wanted to bring them in. That way we can share some insight, as well as you have an opportunity to ask them any questions that you want. Nacho, if I'm not mistaken, there's a pull-up for today or no?
Unfortunately, there's not.
Okay.
I've been trying. We can do it afterwards, but it's not set up for today.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll let y'all know the status on that. All we're doing right now is waiting for James to pop up.
He's trying to get in.
Yeah, he's trying to get in. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. You can come up here and ask. There's also a text channel that you can throw your questions into. Well, cool. Let's go ahead and kick it off. Ben, did you want to kick it off, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about this one. You guys might have seen through like some of the announcements. 21 shares and Amun came together, approached us about starting an index for Polygon, and they're working with some other projects in the space, and they were very kind to invite us as well to be a part of it. And I won't get ahead of myself. I'll let them into it while we have the AMA. But yeah, super excited, and thank you so much, guys, for us.
Thank you. We're very excited as well. This is our second. Well, it's our third index product, but the first two are both based on Ethereum. They were designed to give you exposure to the Ethereum ecosystem. We've always wanted to build products that work across many chains and kind of bridge the process between all these chains, because our overall belief is that we're in super early days of kind of the internet, but for crypto. So we saw that Polygon had really just kind of blown up in the second quarter and really gotten the most, probably the best kind of scaling for Ethereum that we've seen of all the various options, and Ethereum has just endless options for those. So this is one of the chains that actually has real network activity on top. And we thought it would be amazing to build an index product, kind of like what DPI, served for Ethereum, but that for Polygon. So that's what we're talking about here.
Cool. What exactly is an index?
An index product is essentially like what an ETF does for the kind of TradFi world. So if you think about investing in stocks, for the longest time when you invested in stocks, it was basically individual stock selection. And that was okay, but it also meant that everyday people can't really do it as an activity without being really involved in that activity. So if you have no interest in selecting stocks, the stock market becomes kind of irrelevant for you. And that's very not accessible. So mutual funds were first created as a way for people to pool funds together and have a manager to kind of decide what stocks to buy. And then more recently, ETFs or exchange traded funds were created so that it's almost like a rule based and very lightweight wrapper. An ETF, if you will, is almost like a ERC-20. It just kind of wraps together a bunch of underlying stocks. It doesn't so much as need a portfolio manager as much, although of course you can. And then you can basically buy a single ETF, and then you get exposure to a bunch of underlying stocks. The most famous being the S&P 500 ETF, right? And there are people who both create the ETFs and create the kind of constituent rules, and other companies that actually launch the ETFs. So Standard & Poor's created the Standard & Poor's 500 index, And then State Street, I believe, kind of made the wrapper that produced the SPY, or the SPY ETF that tracks the underlying. And as a result of doing all this, you basically, if you're a person who's a teacher or I don't know, sports star, and you don't care about stock selection, but you just want to invest in the stock market, you can buy it, and then you get full exposure to the stock market. As the SPY is like one of the largest ETF products in existence globally. So it's kind of a sign of a maturing of an ecosystem when you do this, and because you're really broadening out the access to everyone. With crypto, we're just at the very beginning, right? We're like, tokens themselves are just a few years old. Everyone in the space is, I would say, pretty much a power user. If you're not a power user, you're probably still on Coinbase. And, in the last year or so, we've really seen the beginning of index products, or the equivalent of ETFs, for crypto. Of course, organizations like Index Co-op kind of kicked off the salvo in, I think, Q3 of last year, with DPI, and many others followed. There's Index Finance, there's a few DAOs that are doing it. It's like, I think in the future, there will be just as many index products in crypto, as there are like ETFs in the traditional world. And Amun is essentially kind of the sister company to 21 Shares. And we launched our indexed kind of product effort in June of this year. We launched 2 products, DPI, DeFi, basically it's our DeFi index with 8 top Ethereum protocols, and DMX, which is a kind of an algo trader, if you will. It's based on momentum, as defined by the the Relative Strength Index. So it actually rebalances daily. But both of these are on Ethereum. And Ethereum is, of course, today's main chain, but there are many, many chains doing very interesting things. So our goal was to basically build an indexed product that covers Polygon, because Polygon is now kind of like a growing ecosystem. It's not just, thematic. And so we kind of put together an index. The main challenge is we're finding enough liquidity and enough AUM, market cap, like available, market cap, available in the kind of protocols on top of Polygon. Many are very, very small. So we set some rules around that and kind of made our first cut at the index construction. And, Qi Dao is among, the current working index we have, which is composed of, Polygon for the most part as kind of an anchor, investment or matic, and the rest, so 50% Polygon and 50% kind of composed of 5 other protocol tokens, of which Qi Dao is one of them.
And we really appreciate being one of those. Can you let us know what kind of rules you have for a token to be added?
Yeah, it's essentially we want to make sure that it's a project that's launched. A lot of projects kind of have even tokens, even though they haven't launched. And for us, those are not real products yet. At least, some of them are very, very promising. But I would say, we can go down the rule list, but the main things are it's market cap based selection. So you need kind of to be of a certain size to be eligible, because if there's not, then if the tokens don't have enough market cap, then the index can't have enough market cap, because it's just made out of like insufficient market cap, right? Small, add a bunch of small things together, they're still only 5 times that small number. So market cap is one, and the other one is kind of available liquidity in the liquidity pools. And for that, we're looking for like 3 million plus, essentially. Gotcha. So the first time we did the cut, Qi Dao is actually the lowest one across. So we do an average of the 2 metrics, right? And then that way it reflects both market cap and liquidity, because it's no good if you have huge market cap but no liquidity in the LP pools. We can't rebalance into your token. If you have a lot of liquidity but no market cap, same thing. We can't buy a lot of your tokens without slippage. So these two are kind of the vital ingredients that make it viable to include you in an index product that rebalances monthly, and that could potentially have tens of millions of dollars in assets. So when we first did the assessment, Qi Dao was number 6 in the index, because we only looked at one of your LP pairs, and then our methodologist Zoe found another one. I think we had some chat over Telegram. You're like, there are some other pairs. I think it was like matic pair, or it was a Dai pair. I forgot which one. And that we included that pool, revised the methodology, and right now, I believe Qi Dao is either number 3 or number 4 in the constituent list.
Ah, that's great. That's great to hear. And then, quick question of like, what does being part of an index, or like, how does being part of an index help tokens or help communities?
Yeah, I think it really helps as a channel, as a to get more exposure for your token. You can think of it as a distribution channel. You can think of it as a marketing channel, and also just like a way to automatically get people to buy the token without necessarily having to go through the process of diligencing, is that a word? Polygon, and then going over to like looking at each of the protocols and then understanding the inner workings of Qi Dao. It's basically the buyer is now saying, I just want a overall kind of exposure. The core value proposition of this index is if someone believes in the Polygon ecosystem and they want to invest in the ecosystem, but they don't want to like they want to kind of like outsource this to a rule-based mechanism and something that they believe other people have thought through and constructed a helpful product. So someone with less knowledge, basically someone higher up the funnel, now can reasonably get exposure to the Qi token. They may not even know so much that the Qi token is there, versus before where you really had to like be a like truly deep, in-depth crypto user and be comfortable with the second chain, be comfortable with protocols on the second chain. Like with each step, it's kind of like a funnel. You're losing people, right? And it's great for building tight community, but I think for crypto to go mainstream, you also want to appeal to some mainstream people. And that means making it easier for them to get access to your token. So I think like, yeah, one core thing is I think if it succeeds, it's a form of like automatic liquidity coming into your token because you're part of an index that's getting distributed and sold through various channels.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Then, Kil, I just do want to go back a little bit and ask about indexes that you have on Ethereum. Talk a little bit about how those went in terms of TVL. What kind of like entities did you interact with, or like projects? What sort of partnerships you were able to build?
Yeah. So I joined Amun about 3 months ago, and we launched the tokens, I think, the second week I joined. It's been pretty crazy. I'd say for Ethereum, for the 2 tokens, we have about $500,000 in market cap. We did not realize the importance of, I would say, partnerships of this sort when we launched. The kind of goal there and the feeling of the market was we would like just gain organic adoption. And I think we underestimated the importance of doing partnerships and also doing kind of liquidity mining programs. Those were still kind of, this whole team, the Amun tokens team, is just like rapidly being built out and kind of expanded, I think, majorly, especially in the last month. Like Ronald, who's on the call, is head of our marketing efforts at Amun. He joined a few weeks ago. So the infrastructure and the people to actually do partnerships wasn't in place when we launched. So we launched it as a kind of, we built it, and because it's good, people will come kind of philosophy. And as you probably guessed, that doesn't always work. I think we built a great product. It's also 0 fees, whereas, competing products typically have a streaming fee of some sort. But right now we're about $500,000 in market cap. We haven't really kind of like launched a liquidity mining program. And that's because kind of internally we're working through the process of how to do that, the best way to do that. I think, that quote from Brian Chesky at Airbnb really rings true here, which is that if you launch and people don't notice, you launch again. And we launched 6 times. It was like Airbnb's mantra. So I think what's exciting about this Polygon launch is that we're taking all the learnings from that and rolling it into this launch, and which is really kind of work with the individual constituents like Qi Dao, work on liquidity mining programs, which we have basically kind of prepping right now. And of course, like make sure that everyone understand and be first to market. Like one big difference is I think we were, there were quite a few Ethereum-based index products when we launched. So our incremental contribution and mind share, it's harder to kind of get people to care about the incremental one. And I think if we do this right, we would be the first Polygon ecosystem token to launch. And I think our methodology is quite sound in the sense that this is a very different situation. Most Ethereum ecosystem tokens, for example, don't contain Ether because, Ether is widely available and also the protocols on top of Ethereum are so rich. Whereas with Polygon, it's more nascent than Ethereum. So, and people want to invest and Matic is kind of a big story to it. So, both to make the liquidity viable and also to give people kind of a one-click solution that gives them access to everything. We're including Matic in that. So that's like part of the construction kind of thought process. But essentially, I don't think we quite understood all the components for when we did the DFI launch in June. But all the kind of key pieces are now coming in place, and we're super excited to kind of roll that out for the Polygon ecosystem token.
I guess before you guys launched those ETFs, or I guess indexes on Ethereum, what kind of things were you guys focusing on? What is the company?
Sure.
Ben, you were cutting out a little bit. I'm not sure. James, did you hear that completely?
I caught it, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
Here's the best way to think about it. You will hear the name 21 Shares and Amun together separately, and you'll be like, what the hell is going on? 21 Shares and Amun are sister companies, and they are like structured as different entities, but it's the same kind of group of people working in those companies. 21 Shares is a company focused on launching exchange-traded products. And these are, what we in the US called ETFs, but 21 Shares is based in Zurich. So they launch products out of the Zurich, the Swiss jurisdiction for the European market. And over there, 21 Shares has $1 billion of assets across kind of investors across all levels in Europe, focused in Europe. And of course, it's interested in growing globally. Amun was created to serve DeFi and crypto natively. So it's designed specifically to launch products on chain. It has nothing to do with TradFi. All the kind of norms, all the code, everything about Amun is basically working on protocols and working on smart contracts and launching products on chain. At 21 Shares, we have like a dozen products, and some of those are index-like products because they have 5 or 6 or more tokens inside of them. And we've had great success there on that side. The thesis is really to carry over that to the blockchain so that you can buy single tokens on Ethereum or on Polygon or in the future on other chains that will give you broad exposure to a bunch of tokens as the underlying. So I think the way I think about it when I joined is it's like 21 Shares is actually a profitable company. It's that part of the business is pretty mature is a big claim because it's in crypto. Everything is early, but it's cash flow positive. And it's growing, but it's spinning off more cash than it consumes. Whereas Amun is like the startup we're trying to build that's purely for native DeFi. And, we have a great team. We have some of the best kind of developers and that are based in Europe. We have methodologists based in Hong Kong. It's like we're a global distributed team, very much like a DAO, if you will, except it's technically not a DAO. And we're starting from zero. Like we have less than 1 million in AUM today, right? And our goal is to kind of like grow that to be as large as our 21 Shares kind of sister company, which is at $1 billion right now. But you can't get to $1 billion in a single step. So our goal is to grow that to about $100 million by the end of this year. And that's through, a huge part through kind of our second generation products with Polygon. And essentially the products we have, in the coming months will be very much focused on index products for alternate chains, beyond Ethereum. In terms of what we did before, DFI and DMX, our 2 Ethereum tokens, Amun did have a set of token launches before these. So those were actually designed for traders. They were leveraged tokens. They were 3x leveraged to BTC. and 3x leveraged Ethereum, both long and short versions, or I think launched. That came out, I think, toward the end of 2020. And those were designed for traders. And I think we were a little bit late to those, to market with those. And some of the kind of exchanges basically created equivalent versions of those. So once again, that was kind of a go-to-market thing that we learned. DeFi is so fast, you have to kind of differentiate and just launch and be first, and of course be kind of best in class. But we did have that gave us a lot of learning, I would say, into producing pretty sophisticated, structured and leveraged tokens, which are far more complicated to make than, say, just a basket token or index token. But different. We've been every 3 months is almost a different cycle in crypto, so that cycle was tricky. I think we didn't quite hit the mark there. So but that was a great amount of learning. I think DFI DMX, this is kind of what we launched in June, great improvement, and also kind of a sign that our goal is to move to actually serve investors rather than traders. Traders is a total different mindset. I think it's very hard to be good at both, I think. So one thing that I'm happy about is that we've kind of more clearly defined our user case, which is like an investor, someone who want to hold an index product, get broad exposure. So DFI DMX, first, our first set of tokens for Ethereum. I'm very happy with those. But I would say very excited for building products that also serve other chains, which no one has done in an industry. Everyone is just kind of focused on Ethereum right now, which is great. But, as we've seen with what Polygon has achieved in the last 6 months, there's so much demand and so much work to be done and so many interpretations of how to do anything that it's great to support other ecosystems.
And so you mentioned this would be the first index on Polygon. There are other projects. I think Index Group, they're making P10, and then Balancer kind of has the ability for you to make indexes. So how do you see 21 Shares and Amun differentiating themselves to that backdrop? What kind of makes you all stand out?
Sure. This product is purely an Amun product. So it's I guess in terms of branding, people don't need to kind of associate 21 Shares with these tokens. This is also due to regulatory things. 21 Shares can't launch tokens in the way it's kind of structured. So it's literally 21 Shares ETPs for Europe and Amun for tokens. But for differentiation, I think one key thing we haven't talked about is the bridging technology we're building. So I think if you think about these ecosystem tokens, normally you would think, okay, it's a Polygon token, so you buy it on Polygon, and that will certainly be available. The thing that we're most excited about is the fact that we're going to be making this available on Ethereum too. So how does that work? We are essentially building a kind of automatic bridging process so that people can buy an ERC20 called Pico, which is our kind of current working name for the Polygon ecosystem token. So you buy the ERC20 for the Pico, one click, and on the back, in the background, we will bridge kind of to Polygon network, form the basket of the underlyings, form a token, lock the token, and then give you the equivalent ERC20. The result of this is that someone on Ethereum who is interested in the Polygon ecosystem and wants to invest in, call it the Polygon S&P 500, if you will, in spirit, can do a one-click ERC20 buy and instantly get exposure to 6 tokens built on the Polygon chain. And that is something I don't think anyone has considered in the alternative proposals that other people are working on for index products on Polygon. This is hugely beneficial just to bring kind of liquidity into the system, because if the liquidity is only available within Polygon, you're naturally only sourcing a small amount of capital. Polygon's a pretty big chain, but it's still a secondary chain compared to Ethereum. If you make it available on Ethereum, on Uniswap or SushiSwap, the amount of potential buyers is just 10 times larger at least, right? So I think this is something that we feel is really beneficial to these other chains. because it's kind of bridging them to the I don't know, the freeway, the super highway, the main road that has all the cars, right? And this is a way, I think, of basically kind of making the protocols on chains like Polygon much more mainstream, much more accessible, especially for investors. And these would be investors who'd be holding these tokens, I think, for a longer duration of time versus those who are simply either trading or those who are simply farming.
Great. I think that's wonderful. Bringing it over to like other instances, right? Because in Qi Dao, you have to like know Polygon, and like then you have to know Polygon, right? Like you have to be on. So it's kind of like two barriers there. I have a lot of questions for you, but like guys, if you have any questions, feel free to be typing them up on the text, as well as can to join the stage. But yeah.
And also just for James and Ron, got a lot of people saying that this sounds freaking awesome. Agree, that they're enjoying this. Be a really cool idea. Just if you aren't keeping an eye on the text chat, just people loving what you're talking about.
Oh, you guys, you
awesome.
mentioned something really cool there. Like you're not like going for traders, you're going for investors, which is interesting, right? Because like investors usually like tend to hold. And also like you guys, it's separated from 21 shares, but you have that experience and that knowledge on like deal with investors. What's kind of your strategy with this? How are you guys planning on onboarding people and getting a lot of interest, perhaps institutional, otherwise, for in that?
Yeah, I think this is still a very, very open question, which is like, who are the investors in DeFi? I think if we look at the kind of L2s or the side chains, it currently, as it lives, I think naturally attracts farmers and people who are kind of chasing yield, right? It's like, oh, new chain launched, incentive program, 3,000% APY. It's like, there's a lot of just like, go to the chain, like soak up the liquidity and then kind of like sell out. So that's important, kind of like also necessary to bootstrap some of the liquidity and some of the interest. But it is really, I think, a very open and difficult question of where are the investors and how do we get them? Like, I think this is something we're going to have to learn this time around. One idea that Ron had, our head of marketing, is actually just serving people in the spirit of, doing things that don't scale, like serving large buyers who just want to buy your things, but don't necessarily want to like go through the complicated and sometimes scary process of having different wallets, changing the wallet, like getting to a Polygon bridge and bridging over funds, all those like gnarly steps. Like that will kill off, in terms of the funnel, that will just wipe out entire parts of your funnel. So I think one thing that we're considering is just doing an OTC style of, oh, you want to buy this stuff? We will handhold you and buy it for you. Ron, do you want to talk about like the spirit of what you want to do there? Ronald, are you there?
Ron, if you're speaking, you might be on mute.
Sorry, I just was figuring out how to get back to the voice channel. The spirit of what we want to do is make all the Polygon ecosystem tokens like Qi Dao available to a wider group of people. Like, I recognize that most of the people listening to this talk right now has the technical capability to buy things themselves, right? So this is in the spirit of your friends who might not be as technical or who might not be as savvy, getting exposure into the ecosystem. How do they do that? Or your parents, how do they get into that? Or other people, how do you bring in the next 10 million people into the DeFi world? And when it comes to that, one of the easiest things you can do, and this is something that a lot of crypto companies have done, and I've actually participated in myself, is a really simple OTC style process where you email us, Amun, and you're like, hey, Amun, I want to buy $50,000 worth of tokens. And then we'll be like, cool, wire us money to our bank account, and then we'll drop it on your wallet address. and we will screen share with you on the computer or one of your secretary or whoever, and then we will screen share with you how to actually create your own account. And then once you do that, we'll just drop the money over to you. You just sign a DocuSign. We have a prearranged deal. Like, here's how much of our index token you're getting for this price, based on this given day. And then once that is there, you just wire us the money in your bank account, and then we'll just plop the money into your wallet. We'll plop the tokens in your wallet. So that is something that I'm excited about, because I've talked to a lot of institutions, and their mentality is, I just want exposure to the asset class along with all these other things. I don't just want to be Bitcoin or Ethereum. I want something that's going to get me a lot of alpha. But I want a little bit of diversification. I don't want to just, you can't just throw like $5 million at a time in like a single place, right? So index exposure, but in an entire asset class where they believe in the Polygon asset class, and a really easy way to do it that we can handhold you through. So hopefully that makes sense.
I love
That
it.
definitely makes sense. And, you guys had mentioned too, like being on certain like city applications as well, a way of like spreading the word.
Yeah, education, ease of use. It's imperative for further adoption here. A couple of questions from the community just before we move on. Launch date for the Polygon Index. Geekfine asks because he wants to be all in.
Awesome. We are shooting for early October hard launch. The soft launch, which will be kind of like, it's almost like just testing in the open, but without making a fuss about it, will hopefully be kind of later September. So this thing should be out, if everything works to plan, should be fully out in 30 days from now. But you should hear something about it within the next, I say, 3 weeks or so.
Fantastic. And then we have another question. Can we get a Chainlink Oracle for the index? That way we can use it as collateral on Qi Dao. I know that takes some time, but just have y'all had any thoughts about that for future plans?
Yeah, we would love to be working with Qi Dao like at a DeFi level for this. Zoe, our methodologist, this is one of her first ideas, which is like we should be a token that can be used as collateral on Qi. So it's on the roadmap. But like, yes, would love this idea. It's on the roadmap. I will work with Eng to see like what more granularity we have. But like, yeah, after that we ship this, I think all these things become possible.
Beautiful. We also have a question from Crypto Godfather. Enjoying what you're doing. Great to see that she is one of the 5 in that 50%. If you're not charging fees or management fee, then how do you make money, or how do you survive?
Sure. Our long-term business model is going to be streaming fee based. But because we're so new, we're just basically free to launch right now. Because like we'd prefer to like just have zero friction for the early adopters and also zero cost. So long-term, there will be a streaming fee. I think if I were like spiritually, I think if basic products on the L1 chains is probably going to be like 1%. For more advanced products that require bridging solutions, probably under 2%. That's roughly the kind of fee structure that we have in mind. We're happy to get feedback on that. But I think for people today, they can just consider that it's essentially going to be fee free for the foreseeable future. There was a question on like how do we compare versus the P10 and the balancer thing.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, on that. Yeah, I think the balancer product is very, very fascinating. It's like using an AMM to almost function as an index product. I think there are a few, I think that with that approach, they're a little bit more rigid with what the pool, like you can't rebalance to arbitrary percentages, I think, as much as an index product, which is really designed to do that. I think it's an interesting exploration, but but really quite different as well. So I would say, it's just like another iteration of kind of the design space we're in, so that we've kind of created an AMM for that. I think that's perfectly cool. In terms of just comparing directly to index products, which can rebalance arbitrarily and set kind of these rules more arbitrarily, it's really us. I've heard about the P10, of course, on index co-op side. One big difference, I think, is with P10. We were hoping to have more constituents, but ultimately we realized that it would not work very well if there were more constituents. And with 10, like if you look down the kind of market cap, the table of what number 7, 8, 9 are, very quickly you run into protocols that have very limited liquidity in the pools. And what that means is basically every time you rebalance the product, you're going to get massive slippage. And that slippage will essentially kind of eat into your investor, eat into anyone who's buying those tokens, because it's being very cost inefficient to acquire. So, I think the reason why we ended up with 6 was we felt like 6, Matic plus 5 is really is currently kind of the state and maturity of the ecosystem that Polygon intrinsically has, right? I think if Polygon succeeds over time, more and more protocols will become mature in terms of market cap and liquidity and could enter the index. But as it stands today, if you run the rules and you respect them, I think anything below 6, any more tokens beyond 6 just becomes quite costly and risky for the investor, because let's face it, a lot of the new ones are very kind of immature and they were just started a few months ago. So it's like, it's a little bit hairy to just include all of them. Our hope is over time, the Polygon ecosystem kind of blossoms. A lot of the projects reach like reasonable market caps and also above 3 million in the kind of TVL liquidity, in the LP liquidity. And if they do, they automatically get included in the Pico token that we're building. So 6 is the starting point, but N is there's no hard limit, right? And because it's on Polygon, it's very cheap to include more because rebalancing costs, gas costs are so much lower. Our hope is over time, as the kind of protocols mature and grow, the portion that is devoted to Matic will also decrease to be allocated to the protocols. Right now it's 50% because it's early and Matic is kind of like the anchor investment. But beyond that, in 6 months' time, if Polygon really, really matures, we could see maybe Matic shrink to like 33%, and the constituents, make up like 66% the rest.
That's great. That kind of flexibility. I think some more questions coming in here from the community. Where did the name come from? Or how do you pronounce it?
Yeah. Amun is indeed the Egyptian god of sun and air. And then it became like, it's kind of like Egypt. If you read Egyptian mythology, it's actually, many, many generations of stories. But like Amun became later on the king of gods in Egypt mythology. And the reason why we picked the name is because the founder, Hani Rashwan, is Egyptian. We have 2 founders. Hani is Egyptian. Ophelia is Italian, but both are essentially American. If you talk to them, they went to school here and all that. So Hani loves his heritage. I think is actually a great name because in crypto, lore is so much of the culture. And we have protocols now that reference Greek mythology. We have protocols now that follow like Norse mythology. Egyptian mythology is arguably like the OG and the richest of all those kind of universes. And I think it actually is a great name and backstory that we have to build out. We have some pretty exciting plans to kind of like flesh it out, including really like leaning into that heritage. So yeah, it's from the founders' kind of heritage.
I love it. So it has nothing to do with to the moon.
Open to interpretation.
We are very familiar with like kind of like those references. I mean, we don't do mythology; we do like philosophy. But I think it's cool to have some kind of like an identity that. Time.
I love it. The whole your whole Chinese thing with Confucius stuff is hilarious.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. I know that we've got a question, and I think you had answered it earlier on in the call, but for those who are just now coming or projects that are listening in, what do you consider? What would you consider an entry criteria for new constituents? Is it TVL, or do you have like a community vote for those?
Oh, yeah. I think the main things are you have to be a launch project with, I think, 2 months of track record. You need to be in the top, call it 10 in terms of market cap, and you need liquidity in the LP pools in excess of $3 million. Those are like basically the table stakes. Like one way to pragmatically look at this is like what is currently almost in but not quite in. I forgot. I don't want to name names, but like basically we don't have number 7 in the portfolio because number 7's liquidity in the LP pools is like 1 million or 1.5 million. And it's just not like our aspiration for this index is like to be a $30 to $50 million kind of AUM index. So if you have only 1 million in your LP pool, when we rebalance and if you make up a reasonable percent, it's just going to be just not tradable, right? So, having decent liquidity, I think, is the key thing holding back having more constituents, and I hope that will improve over time.
Makes sense, yeah. Something we look at so we're adding collaterals. The most important thing is to have liquidity. It's like, it doesn't really matter how big.
Absolutely. And as more questions trickle in, I did just want to ask, like, how did y'all get into the crypto space, just personally?
Sure. I got in because I guess I started in 2016 because I worked at ARK Invest, and my partner analyst at the time, Chris Berniski, basically he stopped doing his job and just started following Bitcoin exclusively until he's like, make me a new job for crypto or I don't think I have anything to do left. So he became extremely passionate about Bitcoin. Bitcoin was really the only thing happening at the time. Ethereum was barely launched yet. And we at ARK kind of wrote some of the first institutional grade investment literature on why Bitcoin is not insane, and why it's worthy of inclusion in your portfolio. And at the time, we were the first ETF to have exposure to Bitcoin anywhere. So that's kind of like one of the claims to fame at ARK Invest. I looked at it with kind of like some suspicion. I wasn't persuaded because by the whole economic, libertarian Austrian, philosophy kind of perspective, because it's just, I don't really think as much in theoretical and macro terms as, especially for monetary stuff, as the folks interested in the first wave of Bitcoin. I'm much more of a software and platforms guy. I have a tech background. So once you have applications and users, it makes sense to me. If you just have a bunch of like abstract theory on supply and things like that, I appreciate the theory, but it doesn't like move me as much. So I, followed along for the next couple of years. But clearly, basically at the end of 2020, something was starting to change. I saw what happened with DeFi Summer, but I didn't quite get into it because I was busy with like work. But then early 2021, NFT mania, not the current NFT mania, but the first wave of NFT mania on Nifty, came about. And, I'd actually left ARK to join an AI company. I was a month in and I found that I was just spending all my time, messing around with NFTs. And my mind was already not on the job. And I just started this new exciting job. So I quit that job and basically said, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to explore the underbellies of crypto and maybe I'll find something in the end. So that was the plan. And, I did that. I wrote some newsletters, did some podcasts, just absolutely fascinating what Ethereum is like developing, has been developing in 2021, the maturity of DeFi and NFTs, like actually reaching the mainstream. Really, really incredible. But yeah, after a while, like I talked to the folks at Amun. They were looking to build out their token business. And yeah, I decided to join because I figured I can probably make more of an impact with the team than just be a, solo researcher, writer, kind of on my own, especially given I'm still fairly new compared to some of the OGs in the space. So yeah, that's kind of how I came. It was really kind of traditional investing, and then just being interested in crypto once it became a software platform, especially Ethereum. And now like combining the two and really building index products, and as well as like really a whole new team and company to really accelerate the space. Ron, what's your story?
Yeah, I've always been a big believer in like radical innovation and investing in that. I've been a Tesla investor since 2013. Was that even before ARK?
Yes,
but
ARK
like
started 2014.
yeah, nice. So yeah, and I'm an investor in SpaceX, and I do a couple of like angel investments. So I've always kind of been looking at like what does the next 10, 20 years look like. And I was actually in Bitcoin in like 2013. I went to a lot of the meetups, and I love the technology, but the people scared me. So I did not invest, unfortunately. But yeah, like, when it came to 2018 after the great crash, I said, oh, this looks like a good buy entry point. So I got involved in Bitcoin. I actually wanted a crypto job in 2017-ish. But I just saw a bunch of exchanges, and I said, an exchange is not like an interesting like business model to me. It's just like a race to the bottom in terms of commoditization. But like, I revisited the space in 2020. I got much more into it, and I saw how robust the crypto ecosystem grew. Options market, futures market, all these, decentralized applications. I saw that, that happening in 2017, the crypto kitties and everything, but it's just so much wider and more robust. And, just seeing like, these scaling solutions, because, it was really a much more mature space. And then so, I said I was going to get into the space. I invested in a couple of companies in the space. And eventually, James persuaded me to move over to Amun. I was weighing a couple of different offers, but what I think is exciting here is that for the next 50 million people who are going to get in the crypto ecosystem, it's going to be things like index exposure. Where you're not actively managing, you're not a DeFi degen, where you just believe in the theory, you see what's happening, you see the traction, you want to get involved, but it's not going to be like the thing you obsess about on a daily basis. And it could be it's weird. It's an index, so it has a diversification of a lot of different projects, but it has a potential to go like 100x or more as an index. And indexes normally don't have 100x potential in it, right? So, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds over here. And, I genuinely believe in what we're doing. And that makes my job so much easier as a head of marketing person rather than being brand manager at like Procter and Gamble and convincing you that Tide is better than, a generic laundry detergent when like 99.8% of the chemical formulation is like the exact same thing. In crypto, I genuinely believe all of my friends who buy our token are going to get rich in like 10 years. Not financial advice. So, it's much easier to do something when you really believe it in yourselves. And that's why I'm so excited to be in a room of really passionate people on a Sunday, just nerding out over crypto together. I love y'all.
Oh, that's awesome. So Ron, when did you invest in Tide?
When I invest in what? Oh, Tide. No, I shop exclusively at Costco.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. And so, I see there's a trend from your early investments that follow anything that Elon Musk does. Do you have some Dogecoin?
No. I'm not on Dogecoin. I'm not like a Elon Musk zealot. I'm not in Neuralink. I had an opportunity to invest in Neuralink. I declined. It's just that any company that's really engineering driven and that has like competitive moats and patents and like technology, I think is very compelling. That is what driven me there. I'm an investor in a couple of other things, like a battery recycling company, ABML, and, actually a Terra ecosystem company called ℚ𝕠𝕕𝕒𝕕. I'm invested in quite a few things. and what is happening here in the Polygon ecosystem is incredibly fun. And I say this as someone that I'm currently trying to write a blog post right now, kind of like simplifying the Polygon ecosystem and making it accessible to like your college student or your parents or whoever. And I find it incredibly fun to write the persuasive material on why it's an exciting ecosystem to care about.
Love it. Love it. And then also, just for the both of y'all, if y'all want to share your Twitter handles in the text chat, that way, or the text channel, that way people can follow y'all moving forward. Also, I saw another question up here somewhere. What do y'all do with the tokens when you're sitting on them? For example, you have a big bag of ℚ𝕦𝕐 that is covering your index. What are you doing with that bag of ℚ𝕦𝕐? Is it just sitting there?
Right now, we're not doing anything. It is more, I think we've talked about like making it productive. And I think the second you do that, there's a little bit more increase in exposure for the token holders, by definition, right? And B, like, I think there is some engineering work that has to be done. I think we considered it, and we may still do something, but by default, it's being held. So it has the minimum kind of risk exposure.
Correct. Yeah, if you ever want to do anything with that ℚ𝕦𝕐, you can always use it as collateral in Qi Dao. But
I'm curious if we've had some pretty great feedback. If you guys or any of the community members listening have any ideas on what Amun could build next, or how Amun and Qi Dao could work together. We talked about using Pico as a collateral, the Pico ecosystem token as collateral for to make my anything else we could do, kind of like to really build more Lego blocks for DeFi.
Yeah, that's a great question. Community, start throwing in some ideas. Ari, again, also, I do want to let people know that if you do want to come up to stage and use your voice, you can use your voice as well. You don't have to just write in the chat.
I should just share.
I'm also a very community-driven member. Like, I am on Reddit, like, all the time. So, like, any ideas or suggestions you guys have, I'm, like, totally down to, like, nerd out over stuff.
What would be the best way for them to share these ideas with y'all?
I'm fairly accessible on Discord, personally.
I'm a Twitter person more. So like it could go through you guys. You could DM me directly on Twitter. You could join our Discord. We'd love that. So here, let's share. Like, Ron, could you find our Discord link and just drop that in the chat?
I'll plug a link to our Discord group in the chat.
Join our Discord group where we're constantly looking for ideas. We've already had some folks chime in with ideas we could never have imagined. So we'd love to have you on board as well.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of communities is just the different perspectives, different the bigger brain power. The more brains you have, the more unique ideas will actually pop up. All right, there we've got the Discord in the text channel.
You'll see me, don't worry. I'll make sure to get in there.
Yeah, for real. And then a question in terms of, for people who may not be as familiar with indexes and all that kind of stuff, like, do indexes usually outperform, like, just holding single, like, tokens either traditionally or also in the crypto space?
It's a very interesting question. It's very hard to make that distinction because, like, say for the S&P 500, you're like, does holding the SPY outperform the underlying, or picking the underlying? It's like, which of the 500 are you comparing, right? And also over what time frame? If you were 100% in Apple from 2007 to today, you would dramatically outperform any index. But if you were in, I don't know, was WorldCom part of that index, then you went to zero. So it's like, it's very hard to make that comparison. I think what traditionally, mutual funds are not relevant, but basically, like, I think what I tend to think of it as a service, right? Just like we might use a paid tier of like Salesforce or Slack or Netflix. Like you're doing these things not because there are no other options. You could always use the free option, but because the kind of by basically kind of procuring a service for a modest fee, you actually take a bunch of work off yourself, and also I think the benefit is that for those who want a bit more risk control, indexes provide natural diversification. That's, I think, probably the best way to think about it. Like it will always automatically on a monthly basis spread out your invested capital across 6 or more tokens in the case of Pico. So I think for a lot of people, the fact that you can just set it and forget it and know that, some people just hold Ethereum passively and they've done very well. I think if the Polygon ecosystem does very well, like holding something like Pico passively would give you that same kind of like peace of mind. You don't have to worry, did a protocol get rugged? Did something happen here or there? You just know that. And did I miss out on a certain project? Like you can be very passionate about one project and totally miss out on another. Like indexes really give you kind of a way to kind of smooth out all those considerations.
Awesome. Yeah. And then again, we've got some mentions. Diversification always wins long term. I think it's even more important within the crypto space. Time zones they're operating from. Yeah. They're operating from the Eastern time zone. And then Slade this, the text channel will be up, continuously.
I think it just stays the same one, right? It's just
it stays the same one. So you'd be able to scroll up and see past conversations. No, great. Let's see. I know we kind of hit the hour in our AMA, and so we don't want to take too much of your time. Did y'all have any other tidbits that you wanted to share or give our community some insights?
Sure. We'd love to have as much input from you guys as possible. And right now it's like our current construction rules are basically the weighing of market cap and liquidity. If you think, for example, other protocols within Polygon are coming up or worthy of consideration or that we should look into, we'd certainly appreciate that. If you think there are any ways that Qi and Amun can work together from a DeFi perspective, like how we can build, leverage each other and what we've built to build even more interesting products, we'd love to hear from you on that. We will be, of course, monitoring this channel, but feel free to hop over to our Discord as well, or to our Twitter. Those links kind of are above. We'd love to hear from you. And we are, we're a bunch of people. Everyone on the Moon side is all like cartoons and avatars with their own lives and deep in crypto land. So we'd love to really, really work together and build more stuff.
Can I shill our stuff now, James?
Yes, please.
Yes. We are giving away so much money, guys. So much money. I lose track of all of our free money initiatives we're giving away. But stay tuned. In the coming weeks, our hard launch is in the beginning of October because we're timing that with an event with Polygon themselves. And there's going to be a whole plethora of initiatives out that are community initiatives on Discord and Telegram groups, on interactive things with people. We're going to be giving, I think in just raw prizes over, $50,000 plus US dollars to over 500 people, if not more. And that's not even including our liquidity mining. Our liquidity mining stuff is going to be like, God knows, like how much money, like maybe over $500,000 or something. So yeah, I encourage everyone to stay tuned. We have a lot of things coming out. We have like over 10 free money giveaway initiatives coming out. So, that's all coming. And I will be talking with the Qi Dao team to talk about that in more depth after this AMA as well, to get them involved and get your Discord and your Telegram and your Twitter communities involved in that as well. So yeah, I really that's one thing. Two, I really just want to emphasize that this ecosystem token is a great way to give people exposure to Polygon who otherwise wouldn't have in the broader ecosystem, whether they're DeFi natives on Ethereum and they can get access to Polygon ecosystem tokens now. Whether they're, OTC desk capability, they're like a institution or a super rich person who doesn't even know how to do anything crypto at all. And now you can just plop them tokens on their account. And three, we're even looking at, possibly bringing this, ecosystem token on an exchange. So if we bring it on an exchange, it's super mainstream at that point, right? So stay tuned for all those things. We are trying our hardest to make the Polygon ecosystem as accessible to as many people as possible. If you have any ideas, any leads of any individuals who you know, or just anyone, anything you want to talk to us about, feel free to, message James on Twitter or DM me on Discord. That is the second thing. And the third thing is, we have, initiative, that's a pet project of mine called Blockchain Brunch. The first one is going to be September 18th. It's a monthly Zoom meeting, that we have across people from all over the crypto ecosystem. And, it's a 3-part meeting. The first part is just small group networking. You join the Zoom meeting, you're automatically assigned in a small group of like 1 or 2 other people for speed networking, 15 minutes, just to get to know other people in the ecosystem. Maybe you can show them about the Polygon ecosystem and like why Polygon is the best, right? The second part of the Zoom meeting is everyone goes into a main room where we have different breakout rooms. So one of them might be like, hey, one topic room might be what's U.S. government regulations in crypto look like this month. Another might be, what is, your favorite DeFi strategy of the month or your favorite NFT of the month. A third topic breakout room could be Polygon hangout room for all the Polygon ecosystem people just nerd out about Polygon, right? And just having a voice and Zoom channel, to really talk about that and build community on a monthly basis. So I think that will definitely be fun, not just for all of you to hang out with on a regular cadence, like a water cooler type of a thing, but to even bring more people into the Polygon ecosystem by talking about why it's such a great ecosystem. And the third component of that, blockchain brunch is a list of jobs and internships from all the participating companies that are available to people. So we're going to have a bunch of jobs and a bunch of internships and email addresses of hiring managers to give you special exclusive access to those opportunities. So I have over 20 college student organizations signed up to join this event. There's going to be a lot of student activity. And by not limiting to just students, I want everyone to get involved. Whether you just want to nerd out over Polygon with other people, whether you want to do small group networking, whether you're looking for a job in the crypto ecosystem, Blockchain Brunch is here for everyone. And because at Amun, we're like a third party entity, we're like neutral and objective and can give pro and con on everything. We can create cross protocol wide events like Blockchain Brunch. So, I'm going to drop a link to our sign up. You can sign up. It's a totally free event for everyone involved. We might even want to like do some charity donations in the future. But yeah, hopefully that is something that can excite people as we grow the crypto ecosystem to a broader group of people. That's the central theme of Amun, providing thoughtful research, to grow the ecosystem to get people more comfortable with crypto.
Nice. Yeah. Please drop that in the text channel. Sign me the hell up. And we have, quite a few others that, are in that same boat.
Cool.
Callum, did you have a question? Notice you joined the stage.
Hey guys, honestly, just a little bit of community. There's a lot of good cross activity between Qi and Adamant, and I want the Adamant community to be more aware of the value that's sitting here on this stage. We've been talking with the Amun team for a little bit, and so I just want to make sure that the Qi community knows that I want y'all over in the Adamant chat and make sure that we are paying attention to this. Bring it up, make it public. Let us know how much you guys like it because we pay attention to y'all's lead. So just something I wanted to make sure we're aware of.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey man, are you part of the admin? Are you part of the admin team or just a community member?
I think he's part of the admin team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's part of it.
And
Macom,
cool.
you can
I'd love to get
hop back off mute and answer. Yeah.
Or just type it in the text. I'd love to. Yeah, we have a Telegram open with the admin team. We have a Telegram open with each of the 5 kind of constituent protocols. We'd love to work together.
It's great. Yeah, Adamant is fantastic. Great team, great support. Keep doing what you're doing.
I think like next step for us, we definitely have to get this over to the community through some kind of like proposal. So we'll be drafting that up and sending it y'all's way. I mean, probably tomorrow or the day after. I know we have like a deadline coming up. Or like
Ben, I think you cut out. I'm not sure if that was the end of your sentence.
oh, okay. What did I cut off?
Basically, yeah, we're gonna have a chip, and then there's a deadline coming up, and then right after the deadline, you cut out.
Oh yeah, sorry. Perhaps my internet's not great right now, but yeah, just that we'll be writing that out, and y'all will get to vote on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, James, Ron, it was fantastic. I loved what I heard. I am a degen just like you, James, and so I'm going to. I have a tendency to ape into things. I think this one is definitely one of those apeable moments for me.